Welcome,
Gonna
Kayak
get a big bang.
anglers, to our video podcast. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Payne Outdoors. No nonsense, straight talk, outdoor analyst, and custom plastics. Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle, custom made jigs and Ned rigs. Feel free kayaks. Pedal, paddle, or power, there's something for everyone. And Yak Gadget, proudly supplying you with American-made kayak fishing accessories and gear. Now, let's join our host, John Rapp.
Good evening, everyone. I'm John Rapp with Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast. This is episode 16, and I'm really looking forward to picking the brain of a couple guys tonight. Of course, we're going to hear from our Angler of the Year from West Virginia Kayak Anglers, who is now the gold event winner for the West Virginia area. It's one of our biggest tournaments in the state. He took home close to $2,000, not $200,000, $2,000. And then we got Chris Payne back. But those two gentlemen that we're talking about, that would be Jody Queen and Cory Dreyer. Before we get started, make sure you share this video. Go down and punch that button to the right. Share, like, comment. This is an interactive talk show. We want to hear your comments, your thoughts, and while you throw up some questions my way, I will relay it to the guys. So let's do that. Now, first let me introduce our fine gentleman. He's a first-time show participant from North Carolina, Cory Dreyer.
Hey guys, what's going on?
With him, we have his good buddy, fishing teammate for Cashion, Jody Queen.
Hey guys.
Now, look, here we go, guys. Live, raw, and unfiltered. You're on the show. And we've got, on the left, we got Cory Dreyer from North Carolina. And on the right, we got Jody Queen. Guys, how y'all doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing today?
Real good.
Doing great, John. How are you?
Hey, Cory, thank you for jumping on the show with us, buddy.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
I'm hoping we got some good video feed here, good audio. I'm not seeing a desktop audio thing, and that's got me a little worried. Hey, Heath Mullins, give me a thumbs up if you hear audio from us, buddy. Anyway, Cory, tell us about what you and Jody have been up to, man.
Oh, we've been busy for the last year and a half. We designed had a say in designing a new rod series from Cashion rods. So we have the brand new CK series. It's a series of rods that is designed for kayak fishermen. That can be used really by anybody, but there was a need in the market for a series of rods that really was kind of catered to us kayak fishermen. There's a few things out there right now, but we did a little tweaks, here and there to these rods that, make our life easier on the water. And we actually came up with a whole new rod out of the lineup called the Chattergrass rod. It's great. So I'll let Jody. That was kind of the name came from Jody. Jody came up with that name, and
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Chatterbait King.
Jody. Yeah, Jody converted me a few years ago to jackhammer all the time.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back, but I fish it a lot. I used to fish it some, but not like I do now. And this new rod that we designed is really, it was designed around heavy grass, but it can be used in open water and things like that. And there's really nothing on the market like it. So I'll let Jody elaborate on that, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that Chattergrass rod is, I think, Matt Cashion, he was getting a little aggravated with me and Cory because we kept sending back the prototypes, man. We really, really put this prototype through the paces before they actually put the rod into production. And, what Cory and we did a lot of fishing down south in the really heavy grass lakes like Guntersville and, the Kissimmee chain, even down in the Fellsmere. I mean, those places are just really, really thick mats of grass, of hydrilla, and the normal rods that you use in those areas, when they hang up, you have a problem really popping that bait loose. So what we've found out with is, a good stiff backbone in your rod and maybe 18 inches of a little bit of flex in the tip, the rod would load up. And once it loads up, if you keep reeling, it just pops through and it stays clean. That was the problem. We needed a rod that was going to keep that bait clean when it come out of the grass, because when you're making, 1,000 casts a day in a tournament and you hang up like that, every time that you bring grass in, you're wasting a cast.
Right.
So you want every cast to count. So these rods are designed for that heavy grass. They got that real fast acting tip. When it loads up, it really pops it out really quick. They're very sensitive, and they're 7'4". So you got great distance on casting. When you're out in those big fields and casting across them, those large areas, you want something that you can reach out and touch them with. So it's designed for that type of environment. And, the series itself has, it's really a durable series. It's because, Cory and I were telling them, look, these rods are going to be thrown in the bottom of a kayak. They're in and out of our rod holders. And what we were experiencing with some of the prototypes with the
carbon.
Yeah, the carbon fiber and the Kevlar grips was they were starting to fray on the bottom. So Cory, right away, he said, one of the first things we got to change is the butt on it. So they use EVA foam on them now, and so that took care of that problem. But they've also got an extra coating around the blank itself, which protects that rod from bruising. And, man, I'm telling you, I think I'm sure there's probably something we missed on them, but I think we pretty much thought of everything because they were built for kayak fishermen. That's why they're the kayak series. So we're really, really excited about them. And the Chattergrass rod is just, I can't wait to get to the NC and use that thing, man.
Well, I know when Cory and I were talking last night, he was talking about what you hit on was the upload. Once it gets stuck, and the way that it's got a lot of strength in the bottom, but yet it's so sensitive that you don't have to really yank on it to get out. You can just put a lot of pressure on it. And
we say heavy grass. Yeah, it's going to spend its whole life in that heavy grass area. I mean that's what the rod is made for. It's kind of a technique specific rod. So yeah,
it's a really good rod though in open water. I mean, Jody and I have been using open water, around wood and things like that. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the backbone and the fast tip, but a lot of times fishing a bladed jig around laydowns and stumps and things like that, you get hung up with other rods. This rod, I really don't have that issue like I did before. Yeah. So it's definitely something special. I've been using this rod for a year and a half. I mean, I fish out of my boat, I fish everywhere, and it's been excellent. So this is definitely one of the most sought after rods out there. A lot of guys, ladies and gentlemen, that have been around Jody and I at some of the tournaments and national and local events. Everybody's been asking about this rod, so I think it's really going to be a hit.
Hey, now while we're on that topic, I was interested. When you're talking about that rod, I mean, it's the CK, and then you said it's a Chattergrass. Now, you were also talking about the worm and jig. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, sir. So the worm and jig rods. So we have five rods in the CK series. Chattergrass. We have the worm and jig, which is a 7.3 medium heavy fast. So we wanted to have a rod that was long enough that we could get that distance, have the leverage from being in a kayak, and things like that. So the biggest thing with this rod is it has a weight here in the bottom of the rod. So nice. What this does, it's a counterbalance weight. So after you put your reel on here, set it up, your rod is always going to sit at that 1 to 2 o'clock position, and you're kind of there ready for that bite. You feel the sensitivity. You're not getting worn out throughout the day of dragging a jig or a worm on the bottom, and things like that. And so some of the other features that we did to the rod that we didn't talk about in the CK series is, we got the EVA foam butt, the reel seat here. So we cut down the threads. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but on the reel seat, we cut the threads down. And what that does is actually gives you contact, with your finger to the blank. So it's actually more sensitive. You can feel those vibrations, little bites and things like that. And then we also went with micro guides. Now, I know there's some anglers that do not like micro guides. I'm a fan of them. It's less material that the vibration has to travel through, down to the blank. It provides casting distance. In a kayak, all that stuff matters.
Yes.
We're low to the water, not like in a boat. So we have 11 guides on here and then a tip top, so 12 total guides. And then, like I said, it's a 7.3 medium heavy, and I use it up to a 1 ounce, 1 ounce weight. But the majority of the time, I'm using 3/8 to a ½ ounce.
Well, while we're on that subject, guys, hey Cory, Jody, you guys, while y'all been testing these, can you give us a little feedback on what you were using? Like, was it what type of line? Was it braid, 10 pound, 20 pound? What would you recommend for your utilage on that?
It it really depends on what you're fishing. Most of the time, though, I use fluorocarbon. 90% of the time, unless I'm in really nasty slop, and that's pretty rare. I mean, honestly, I typically use 17 to 20 pound test. Okay. I may have to bump up to 25 if it's nasty, where I don't want to use braid, but I generally do not have an issue. So I know Jody uses about the same, 17, 16 to 20, somewhere in that range.
I rarely dip below 17 pound test fluoro. But I will use the braid, like if I'm down south and I'm, in a lot of heavy grass down there in the dark water, and I know there's 10, 11, 12 pounders, I'll go to braid. In that situation. But 90% of the time, I'm a fluorocarbon guy too, and I use about the same poundage as Cory just alluded to.
Anything you match it up with, guys? You use a Revo or what type of? What do y'all? Does it really make a difference in your mind what you match it up to?
I am a really big fan of the Shimano digital control reels, the DCs. So Corrado DC, I have a handful of those. The SLX, what is it? The SLX DC, it has been really, really great, to be honest with you. For the money, it's less expensive than the Corrado. I can't tell a huge difference between the two. Very durable. I like to use, a 7 to 8 gear ratio, somewhere in that range. It really depends on what I'm fishing, the bait I'm fishing, because I like to, bring that line up, and get to the fish pretty quick. I'm typically a 7.2 to 1, 7.4 to 1, somewhere in that range is kind of the average of what I use.
Yeah, I like those DXs too. I've got one, and I really pretty much specifically use that rod around docks. When I'm using the worms around a dock or a jig or something like that, they don't backlash very easy. They're really good if you hit something that you're not really standing there all day trying to pick a bird's nest out. They're really good around docks for me. Other than that, the rest of my rods or my reels are usually the Team Lou's Tournament Pro TIs. I love those reels. They've been really good to me. I ain't had no problems out of them. They're a little bit pricey, but I mean, you get what you pay for. But I'm usually a 7.5 to 1 on most of my reels, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, but I throw an 8 to 1 or an 8.3 to 1 on my chatterbaits, because I'm usually fishing some really, really nasty stuff, and a lot of times you're running that bait, over top of grass that might be 8 foot deep, but it's a foot below the surface of the water. So I mean, you need something that's got a quick pickup when you cast and hit. You want to get that blade going real quick and get that bait moving before it sinks down, too far. So in that situation, I'm usually throwing an 8 to 1, 8.3 to 1. And that situation, most other things, 7.5 to 1, 7.2 to 1, somewhere in there.
I'm the same way as Jody there with using a chatterbait, with a higher gear ratio reel. One thing that I've learned over the years is you can slow down a lot easier than speeding up with a lower gear ratio reel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, if you have an 8-to-1, whatever it may be, you can always slow it down if need be.
I agree.
Before we let you guys roll out of here, Cory, you want to show them a couple more of those rods you got there?
Yeah, so we have the chattergrass rod. We have the worm and jig rod. Let me see what we've got here. We also have a flipping rod in the series. It's a 7.6 medium heavy. So this rod here is it's a really good flipping rod, but I've found that it throws Whopper Plopper 130, some of your heavier baits really, really well. It has enough tip to it that you can actually throw those things. We didn't want to go ahead.
Good frog rod too.
It's a good frog rod. It's kind of a really universal rod, I would say.
Yeah.
We didn't want to go to a heavy rod. We wanted a medium heavy that kind of was able to use for, multiple different, techniques and things like that. So we've got that. Then we have a 7.3 cranking rod. So this is the moderate fast, medium heavy, 10 to 14. So this rod here has it's got a really nice parabolic bend to it. It's really good for your square bills, medium running crankbaits. Up to like a DP6, DP10 is about the max of what I've used on this. Anything deeper than that, I like to use a little bit heavier rod. Great all around cranking rod.
What's the model number on that one?
So this is the CKC 73 MHMF. It's the CK cranking rod. And then, last but not least, for all you finesse fishermen, we have a spinning rod. This is the Shaky Head Rod. So this is a 7.2 medium heavy fast. And, it's built for shaky heads, but I throw Nico rigs on it, your Ned rigs, Sinkos. It's another rod that really, it can be used for multiple applications. Now, I love throwing a shaky head, and finesse baits, it's great, but, if you guys have any questions about it, reach out to Casey Reed, who's on the team with us as well. He is a really big shaky head fisherman. He absolutely loves this rod. He got to use it for the first time this past weekend and really did some damage on some fish with it. So it's a great rod. With this one, we went with conventional guides on it. So we did not do micro guides on it just because of the guys that like to use, braid to leader. There's a few knots out there, the FG and a couple other ones that, make your line smaller when you tie it together that can fit through micro guides. But we decided to stick with standard guides on this one. But that's the 5 rods. They retail for $165, and you can buy them from Fish USA. Tackle Warehouse will have them. Fishing Online, your local retailers. Make sure you guys ask for them, or you can buy direct from Cashion. So Cashion's based out of North Carolina. They're in stock, ready to ship. And the other thing right now, if anybody's watching that's going down to the KBF National Championship, I have all of these rods available to sell. I have a post on the members only page if you guys want to check it out, or you can message me and I will tell you what I have left. I'm heading down tomorrow morning before I leave to Cashion to go grab some more. There's a big demand for the worm and jig rod and the shaky head rod, so I've got to grab a few more of those. But it's a great lineup, guys, and it's super durable, and I think everybody's going to be excited.
Awesome. Well, when we get off this show, what I can do, I'll look up the Cashion Rods website, and I'll make sure I put that on here so people can find it.
Appreciate it.
So we got
great. Yeah, thank you, John.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. So Mikey Holcomb yells out to you guys and says, "What's up, Cory and Jody?" And,
hey, Mikey.
Hey, Mike.
Nicholas Beltram from Florida, same. He says, "Nice to see you guys."
Nick, what's up, bud?
Tackle Fishing Adventures is like braid is the best. So I guess he was talking about that. And Nicholas, Nicholas has already thrown up the Cashion Rods website address. So thank you, Nicholas.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that, buddy.
Guys, I'm gonna throw you guys to the background here in just 1 second.
All right.
Storm and Chris, you guys can turn on your video. So, guys, that was Chris. I'm sorry, that was Jody and Cory from Cashion Fishing Team. They came on to share their work with the Cashion Fishing Company. Some 5 new rods that they've come out with. Several of them are kayak specific. Make sure you go look it up. The website is here. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to bring on Storm Carver.
This episode is sponsored by our friends at Payne Outdoors. No nonsense, straight talk, outdoor analyst, and custom plastics. Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle, custom made jigs and Ned rigs. Feel free kayaks. Pedal, paddle, or power, there's something for everyone. And Yak Gadget, proudly supplying you with American-made kayak fishing accessories and gear. Now, let's join our host, John Rapp.
All right. So we are raw, live, unfiltered, and looking at ugly. Storm Carver. Storm.
You talking about me?
No, man. I ain't talking about October 31st yet. But we got some surprises coming from you from the Rusty Hook group, and we look forward to sharing that soon. But before we get into that down the road, we got to talk about this young man here who has been absolutely killing it. And I know he has to be really disappointed to see the 2021 season come to an end, because the dude he's an all-star. He has ruled the waters in West Virginia this year. I don't think he's finished less than 13th in any tournament that he fished all year in all the clubs and groups that he's fished with here. But this past weekend is why he's on tonight. So West Virginia kayak anglers just recently had their gold event. And Stormy, I got that a little 2.5 minute video of the award ceremony. Let's throw that up here real quick and let the people see what happened there.
Okay.
So, Storm, the video's running. You're on here too, so people can watch you make all kinds of faces. But right now, I know I'm talking over the video, but Greg is announcing everything.
Okay.
Right now, and bow season. So glad all 30 of you guys showed up. This is a big money event, $125 entry. So payouts are pretty good. So we're going to start with 3rd place with 71 inches. We only had 6 limits all day with a 12-inch minimum. So 3rd place is Amos Hicks with 71
So we had 30
inches.
folks in this tournament, and we fished the Greenbrier River. Greg is getting ready to announce the top 3 because it only paid out the top 3 places. And 3rd place there is showing a good friend of ours from the Summers County area, Amos Hicks. So congratulations, Amos.
Flopper early in the morning, 2. Then I start throwing flopper later on in the day and fast current. And I was catching a lot of 13s, 14s like that.
Storm, did you think you'd won it, or did you know you'd won it?
I mean, me and Philip and Mikey had talked about it beforehand, and they asked me what I thought would win it, and I said 76 to 78, but I said if you get in the 80s, you probably got it. But
so Jeff just come up to the stage. He announced him as the 2nd place winner. That was a tough day.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't get my 2nd fish until 3:03, and then I caught 4 more in the next 25 minutes, just floating to the truck. So I think they turned on late that day. But Jeff Sisk, congratulations for 2nd place in that event. Now Greg's about to announce the winner, so we'll let you talk about this here in just a second.
yeah. Timmy told me he was going to keep the trophy. He wasn't going to let me have it.
Angler of the Year, Mr. Storm Carver, 81.25 inches.
So you're getting a hug from Greg here, and they're handing you your trophy. I'll go ahead and switch back to our regular view here. Of course, when I do this, your promo's going to run again, so just give me a second here.
Okay.
I did not update his bio there with his win of the gold event, but I'll do that for the next episode that you're on, Stormy. So, man, I know I was giving you a hard time. I've been asking you what color your underwear was this year, if you wore the same pair every tournament, and things like that. But, I mean, tell us about your year, bro.
Oh, my goodness. What a year. Man, the way it started out, going and, finally getting to fish a couple trail events this year, I was wondering how it was going to go. I struggled early in the year, not going to lie. And then seemed like once we hit upper mud for here, everything just started clicking, and it's been awesome ever since.
Well, heck,
Even getting to fish a couple of national events, St. Clair was awesome.
Upper
And
Mud was in April, wasn't it? Early April. I mean, so you've been on fire all year. I mean, what a great year. But switch gears and tell us about your personal best.
Yeah, man. Finally got to break that 21-inch barrier. So I was coming down to a set of shoals that I normally do pretty good at. Well, there's these group of boulders out towards the middle right before this real sharp break, and I was coming down through there, and I was like, I better cast over there, because everything I was getting was, right up on the bank, and they were tracking it down after probably about 5 seconds, and they'd finally crush it. But I was like, I better make a cast over there into that little break before the shoals, because I've always got a good hit right there. And I casted right in between those boulders, and I didn't get maybe 2 cranks of the reel handle in, and she just engulfed it. And Philip had called me and was seeing how I was doing, and I started screaming. I was like, Philip, I got a giant. And it come up and jumped, and I was like, holy cow, I've got a 21 or 22. I was like, it's the biggest fish I've ever hooked. And she jumped, I think, 1 or 2 more times and just kept digging, and I was like, oh, please don't let this fish break me off. And
So I know you were throwing a whopper plopper. What kind of rod and what kind of test line stuff were you throwing?
So I was throwing it on a 7'3" Kistler Argon, medium heavy, moderate fast. It's got real good backbone but a real soft tip. I was throwing the Loon 110, and I would just pitch it out. I'd probably make about a 40-yard cast each time. Let it sit for a second, and then start slow rolling it back to me. And they weren't hitting it normally, like a normal reaction bite as soon as, you get a couple cranks in. They were normally tracking it down. I guess these colder nights and everything, they just weren't committing right away. But with that fog and with the black contrasting, I guess it was just such a good target to hone in on, and they were crushing it.
Yeah, I made that mistake, bro. I didn't start throwing a black plopper until the end of the day. I had a monkey butt tied on, and maybe I should have. I had 5 rods with me, and I had 4 broke off, and I was like, I'm running out of time. I ain't got time to hook up, so that's why I was throwing that black plopper, and then boom, 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 boom. So are you still with me, Storm? Yeah. Okay. Your video froze for a second. Okay. What are your plans for 2022?
Well, for finishing out 2021, me and Philip are leaving to go to the national championship tomorrow morning. We'll drive as far as we can tomorrow, stay the night in a hotel, and hit the water early Thursday before we can check into the house. But for 2022, definitely we're planning a return trip to Kissimmee for the KBF event in January. That and Gunnersville in April for KBF, both of those are pretty much locks that we're going to go to. Hobie released their first 5 last night, and we kind of are eyeballing like Sandy Cooper and Lake Chickamauga. So we're eyeballing those.
I think Gillespie got the Santee Cooper already circled for that week. We're going to be down there, so.
Yeah, we had been talking. We'd been wanting to take a trip to Sandy, and as soon as I popped it up, I texted Philip and I said, "Did you see the first 5 for Hobie?" And he went and looked at it, and he's like, "Oh."
Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming back on and telling us about your week and your weekend. I know you took home almost $2,000 in cash. That'll definitely help with your trip to Louisiana, Texas, down to cattle, and as they say down in that area. But we're going to jump on and take a quick sponsor break, and then we're going to bring on Chris Payne. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
Straight Talk, an outdoor product analyst and custom soft plastic maker. Check out our reviews and products at our website, paintoutdoors.com.
Feel Free Kayaks. Something for everyone. Pedal, paddle, or power. We can outfit you to meet your needs. For more information, visit feelfreeus.com.
Kayak Gadget offers all kinds of kayak accessories such as motor mounts, anchor systems, and other track-based items to make your time more enjoyable on the water. Visit their Facebook page, search Yak Gadget.
Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle specializes in jigs and Ned-style lures. Brothers who know what it takes to put fish in the boat. Check out their Facebook page, search Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle.
All right, let's bring on Chris Payne from Payne Outdoors.
What up?
What do you say, Chris? What's going on there in the kitchen?
We're making orders, baby. We're making orders.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff going out this week. We got a lot of guys coming to Central Texas to fish the biggest get-together tournament, I guess, in the state of Texas. And that is our Lone Star Throwdown. So Texas is divided into several regions. This started years back. And you basically get all the guys you can from your region to come fish these lakes. We're fishing on 2 lakes. Angler can choose. Kind of like y'all Stone Coal and Stonewall event.
Our 2-day championship.
Yeah. So this is a 1-day. Everybody comes in. Friday night we do a captain's meeting, big barbecue. There's a cook team. There's plenty of Western Sun vodka. And it's a big old party. Basically, everybody in Texas that can make it comes down. We have guys that come, 9 and 10 hours, some of them, to come fish the event. And you fish for a region. They take the top 5 from each region, their score for that day. They put them together and then find out the region that won. And there's a big cup that goes with it. And then the winners get to choose the lake for the following year.
That's
and
exactly.
So,
yeah, we used to have that here in West Virginia. We used to have 4 clubs. We're down to 3 now, but one of the clubs that sort of disbanded for a little while, they used to run that for us, and it was called the Bluestone Cup. That was a good event. So how many folks actually attend that?
Well, we've got 99 registered right now, and you can register all the way up until Friday night. So we'll probably be closer to 115, 120. So it's gonna be a good event. It's always a good event.
Yeah.
And there's bragging rights that go along with it, but I think the fun part of it is the food and the camaraderie Friday night.
Right.
And all the crap talking that goes on.
Yeah.
And the next morning, everybody gets humbled. And there's a few that find some really good fish and separate themselves from the pack. And but it's a fun event. This is the second time it's been on our home lakes here in 3 years, I think 3 or 4 years.
That's cool.
And so, I love fishing these lakes. These lakes are where that hardware back there came from. And so I love them because it's one of the few places in Texas where I can catch smallmouth. And I love smallmouth fishing, and to be in Texas and be able to smallmouth fish and catch 10 and 12 pound largemouth, that it don't get a whole lot better than that.
No, I can't imagine. No.
So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But looking forward to that. Pouring a bunch of baits for guys that are coming into town and getting ready. They're like, "Hey, work me up some special stuff." And I got you.
I hear you, man.
So that's what we're doing today.
So what are you pouring? What Senkos or lizards or?
So a little bit of everything. I've got tons of creature baits and our new ringworm that's out. Let's see, you can kind of see that here. It's basically a ribbed bait with a flutter tail on the back end of it. Lots of creature bait, trailer bait type stuff. And then something that's been really popular since we introduced it is that glowworm color.
Yeah.
So that thing, yours are coming.
Hey, throw me a couple of those flukes in there too, man.
All right.
Summersville Lake will love those. I just saw that color. They like it chartreuse there at Summersville, so that might be a pretty good.
And we've also got chartreuse pepper.
There you go.
And we do a lot of customs and stuff too. I say we. It's me. I don't know why there's a we in there. I guess I'm used to that. But
you're hoping that it'll be a we operation in the near future.
Maybe it's all right. If it stays the size it is, that's okay. I'm good. This is my stress relief from work. I don't tell a whole lot of people what I do, but it's a pretty stressful job most of the time. And so to get home and get out of a suit and get into some comfy clothes and come out here and pour baits for a few hours in the evenings it's a blast. I have a good time. I make baits for fishermen as a fisherman. There's no real gimmicks. Like all the new colors that we've introduced are colors that fishermen have asked us for. Right. They've made recommendations. Glowworm is from one of my customers that's about 40 miles west. And they were like, hey, do you think you can make us some baits for fishing at night? And I was able to get some there's these crystals that glow, and mix up some stuff and give it a good pattern. So it's got a little bit of chartreuse. It's got a little bit of gold in it. So even in the daylight, it's an awesome color. But at night, that thing is like putting a green light in the middle of a lake. It's just like, hi. So it's been super popular. I didn't expect for it to be quite that popular, but it's done great. And then our other color, Wizard, has been like really doing well too. We've got a lot of folks buying that stuff. So trying to keep everything flowing and keep orders up to date. One other bit of news, John, before we jump to something else. I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I have signed on to sponsor a KFL team for next year, one of the Kayak Fishing League teams. So the Maryland Blue Claws, I'm going to sponsor those 8 guys. And that is based off of a recommendation from one of my guys out there, Josh Evans, that a lot of you guys know. Yep. And he told Jonathan Scott, he was like, hey, reach out to Chris. I think this is something worthwhile. I don't know what his bandwidth is. And so I got to talk to Jonathan, their team owner, for quite a while, and we worked out a deal. And I'm super stoked to see what a lot of my stuff does, more on the East Coast. What I need to do is get you and Storm and Jody and all those guys up there, get you some of these tryout baits, I guess we could call them, these new colors and stuff for you guys to try in the rivers and your lakes up there, and see if we can dial in some, West Virginia specials and that kind of stuff.
Sounds good, bro. Sounds real good.
So
we changing gears to a hot topic or anything?
Yeah, it's kind of by happenstance. I didn't come into it thinking this, but after talking with Jody a little bit about a bunch of different stuff, it just kind of jogged my memory about talking about clones and whether or not they're good for the business or good for fishing. So when we think clones, think products that are very, very, very similar to each other.
Exactly.
And as a business owner, I have feelings about it, and as a consumer, I have feelings about it, and I know there are a lot of people that have a lot of feelings about it. But let's talk about clones a little bit. If somebody makes let's use Cashion fishing rods, right? Let's do that. Because I'm not aware of a clone on the market for Cashion yet, right? So we talked about the CK series, and the CK is going to take off. I've seen a lot of buzz for it. I'm interested in it. I'm like, man, I got to get one of those Shaky Head rods, and so I'm gonna go jump on the Cashion website when we get done and see if I can get one.
Yeah, Cory was talking about those last night, man, and I was like, that. You know, I don't know much about those. Throwing those chatterbaits, and I've talked to Jody about it a little bit, but I obviously the stuff that I'm using is not right for what that technique, and maybe that's why I haven't been able to do anything. So I'm definitely going to look at that myself. Yeah.
So let's use that as an example, right? So let's use the CK as our example. And so the CK is $165.
Yep.
Let's say tomorrow, Favorite Rods announces that they're going to have the WvKA rod, and it's going to be $80. It looks identical. They claim that it performs identically. Is that wrong of Favorite Rods to do that? That's the question we're talking about. Ethics. So I'd be interested to see what the commenters think about that, because as a consumer, if you don't have $165 for a rod, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's absolutely, market controls it and all of that. But you know, at what point do we hold businesses accountable for intellectual property or theft? You know, do we just leave that to the courts and we just turn a blind eye to it? Because I know that if I came to your house and stole a top secret idea you were working on, or a new idea that you were doing, and undercut you to try to move you out, that as a person to person, that's not great, right? We expect better out of people.
Yeah.
But for businesses, is it okay? Is all fair in, love, war, and business?
That's a good point. I mean, because that's where it goes back to. I wrote down what Jody put it out in words earlier, was loyalists versus economists.
Yep.
And as a
if you were first, do you deserve to be the only one in the market? I mean, if that were the case, we'd still be rocking Pioneer plasma televisions.
Exactly.
That's just not a thing, right? The first LCD panel was made by the Eiki Corporation, EIKI. They were, 32 inches, a weird format, and like $14,000. Those companies are not in business anymore. Is that right? If they spend the research and development to design this, like, does Cory feel ripped off? If somebody reverse engineers, like when we're at ICAST, we kick out all the counterfeiters, right? They're not allowed at ICAST. And we're like, how dare you? But when we see it on the shelf, we're like, oh yeah, I'll buy that. So
everybody's wanting to test to see, will it work and operate like the original? Can I buy 3 of those and use it the whole season and save that one expense? And let's bring on the guys, man, and let's let them comment on this.
Yep. They're all muted. They're like, nope, don't want no part of that. There's Storm.
Right,
there we go.
Where's Jody at? Did Jody leave us?
Jody left about 20 minutes ago.
Did he?
I was having some technical difficulties myself on here. I had to come back on twice. So.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
cool.
So Cory, don't don't let Matt Cashion hate on me for using him as an example, but you know, Cashion is an easy one for me to use because it's a very unique grip style. It's very unique to the market. It's not just EVA foam on a blank and let's put some guides on it. It's very unique. And so if you saw a clone of that, you'd notice it immediately.
And you know where
you'd be
it's
like,
from. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'll let you guys talk. I've talked plenty about that.
Go ahead, Cory. Jump in, Big Daddy.
It's something that happens all the time. I mean, we see it a lot of different things. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily right or wrong. I don't like to see companies ripped off by any means.
No.
You know, if there's some differences and it makes the product better, you know, that's one thing, but directly just ripping you off and undercutting you is another, in my opinion. It's a tough subject.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another one out there, you know, right now that you can compare. I think Jody brought it up earlier was, you know, Torqeedo and Newport Vessels, new motor. But, you know, I'm personally on the Torqeedo team. Newport Vessels, I mean, they have a very similar looking product, but there again, it's different in the fact that you can use a, you know, any kind of battery, you know, deep cycle battery, you know, whereas we have a battery that's, you know, with Torqeedo, we can only use one battery, you know, their battery, and that's it. So it kind of, you know, I get it. But do I feel like they ripped Torqeedo off? Absolutely. When you look at the product, it looks very similar.
Gotta wonder if stuff like that is the plans there. If it was actually reverse engineered somewhere, or if they there was a little corporate espionage. Somebody sold some knowledge to somebody, or.
Well, I think it's right in the middle of that, John. So I think they know Torqeedo had the electric motor market cornered. Right? And so it's easy to make something look like that, even if the guts are different.
Exactly.
Right? So they have a brushed motor, they have a brushless motor. It hooks up with different power and everything. But my issue that I took with it, and I wrote an article about this and caught all kinds of hell for it, but whatever. That's kind of what I did in the past before I started making baits. I started stirring plastic instead of the pot. But what I did was I just called out, I pulled the pictures off their website. And even the staging of their pictures were in exactly the same way. And so
every orientation went down to the parts and pieces, all of it.
Right.
To me, that's just dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. What they changed was the color orange to the color yellow is what it looks like from a non-functional standpoint. If you just look at trade dress lawsuit, that's the same thing. Right. And so that's why I took issue with it and why I posted that article in the first place. Now, there's a price differentiation, which here is where we talk about, you know, the economist and the loyalist, right? So those of us that know Steve Turkula and the guys that have been at Torqeedo forever and have even met some of their German folks, Christoph, and some of those other guys that came over way back when at KBF events and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I've got a little bit of bias because I know those guys and what they've done, but they've been with us through all of these growing pains and steps to get motors into different things, and they were the first to pony up that big fat check.
Yep.
Right? They said, you know what? We're all in. Here's a check. And that, to me, makes me a little bit of a loyalist. I'll own that all day long. Now, and I think that if Newport Vessels and Torqeedo, if they both sold, you know, a 403 unit, which I think is kind of where the copycat was, and Cory, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, you know, the 403s and the Newport Vessels, I think if they were the same price point, nobody would touch the Newport Vessel. Mm-mm. Because Torqeedo was there first, they're the same price, and people are more apt to be loyalists. When it's half the price, now all of a sudden people are willing to shelve that loyalty a little bit because, okay, well now I can kind of afford a motor better. It's the same price as Spotlock trolling motor or something like that, and it gives me more range. You know, when we start dealing with personal finance, some of those personal morals we may hold, they kind of flutter out the window a little bit.
The perception there, though, is really, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong because you did the article and you know a lot about it, but the price, even though the motor is less expensive from Newport vessels, once you buy a lithium battery,
right,
are you at the price?
Yeah,
it depends on the battery. Now, somebody may already have that battery, and so they're not spending as much money. But there again, if you don't have a lithium 54 amp, 100 amp, whatever it may be, 65, you know, whatever, out on the market, you're still spending the same dollar amount or close or more in some cases than what Torqeedo costs.
And I think that's the differentiator. And Storm and John, feel free to jump in here. I know I'm talking a lot, but I kind of opened this can of worms.
Good.
A lot of the guys that I heard from have no intention of putting a lithium ion battery on that. They're going to lug a big old, you know, old school car battery and hook up to that thing, because they probably shouldn't spend the $800 on the motor without the battery in the first place, but they can justify that easier than the $1,600.
Yeah,
right.
$99 Walmart battery. I mean, yeah.
And so they have no intention of comparing apples to apples. No intention.
Yeah.
They want to say, I've got this, you know, motor and it does this. And I don't hold anything against people who have Newport vessels. You got to do what's best for your pocketbook, boo. Go do you.
Absolutely.
But I don't have to make that choice. And you can't, it's going to be really hard for you to convince me that that's a better motor than Torqeedo. And so, you know, I used to buy cheap stuff and replace it all the time until I finally got to the buy once, cry once thing. Like, 15 years ago, if you had told me I was looking at a $165 rod, I would have been like,
yeah, I know.
You're nuts.
I know exactly where it come from. Yeah,
And been there, done that.
I was the old lightning rod guy.
Oh, lightning rod, man. They've stepped up their game, too. We'll talk about that on another episode. But
And see, there's nothing wrong with those.
Nothing.
I mean, you can go catch fish. You know, there's disadvantages, but you get the longevity out of spending the money on a quality product.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, myself years and years ago, I won't buy inexpensive, cheaper made, you know, products anymore just because it bites me in the end. I'm too hard on my stuff, and you know, I use it all. So,
yeah.
Storm, how do you feel about it? If you can buy a Strike King lure for $9, or you can buy my lure for $450. And they're the exact same because I bought Chinese blanks. Which one you buying, buddy?
You know I'm rocking with C-Pain all day long.
That's right, baby.
Yeah, that's loyal. That's loyalist though.
Yeah.
That's loyalist. That's just because you know me. If I was Joe Blow off the street, if I was like, I don't know, XYZ company on Amazon, you know, how do you feel about that? If that's XYZ company on Amazon, or you can buy the Strike King.
I plead the fifth, but
all right, honest man.
But to me, like, too, with that is, like, even though you've got something at a lesser price like that, like, say yours is $4.99 versus Strike King being, you know, the $7.99, it comes down to kind of like bang for your buck. Yeah, the cheaper one may be a cheaper option, may not be a bad idea, but is it really worth it to spend that lesser money when you're buying a better product that you can trust? You know what I mean?
well, is it the same product? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at it. You know, I've looked at different products like that, you know, and knockoff, basically, if you want to call it that. But when you look at it, is it the same plastic? Does it have the same density? You know, does it sink the same? I mean, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, yeah. And if they're the same product, like down to the absolute last little spec, then yeah, I mean, people's going to rock with the cheaper option. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a no-brainer for most people.
That's why a lot of people don't fish the jackhammer.
Yeah.
It's because you can get a Z-Man original chatterbait for $4 at Walmart.
Right.
You know, a lot of days, and they're like, what's the difference? Well, a whole bunch if you fish a chatterbait near grass. A whole bunch.
There is a big difference.
I would have no idea. I've only thrown the Z-Man. I haven't thrown anything else other than the Z-Man.
Hey, I used to say there's no way I'll pay that much for a chatterbait, but then once I started using them, I'm like, okay, I see why.
Now, what's the name brand y'all talking about?
It's still made by Z-Man, but it's the jackhammer style.
Evergreen.
He was saying a standard, your standard chatterbait versus a jackhammer. They're both made, by that. The same thing with Strike King. They have the Thunder Cricket. That's kind of their jackhammer type thing. It's not the same.
Nope.
It actually has a different vibration. And from my point of view, I've actually had success with the Thunder Cricket over the jackhammer in certain situations. It's a different noise. If they're not biting it, they turn off on it, I'll throw that. And I've been bit. So, but there's differences between the regular chatterbait and a jackhammer.
Well,
and the other thing is, it isn't tungsten.
Right.
A lot of people say it's tungsten. It's not. There is a TG tungsten resin head that comes from Japan that we used to be able to get. I can't get them anymore directly from Evergreen, but it wasn't full tungsten is what it was.
They're extremely hard to find now.
Yeah.
Well, Storm, you'll have to educate me on that, buddy, because I have no idea what y'all speaking French to me. So,
pick up a couple John, do you fish jackhammer?
No, I've only picked up a couple Z-Mans here the past few weeks, past month. So
just regular jacket or the regular chatterbait?
The one is this little $5.99 Z-Man one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get you, man.
I put a trailer, put a trailer on it and throw it. So someone
not the same.
Put a little trailer on that thing, that hook, like one of the little paddle tails, and I gave it a try. I mean,
I'll get you fixed up, John. Shoot me your address after this, and we'll I'll get you some stuff.
You gave me bad poopy advice on that one for the tournament. Yeah.
There's a reason he's the gold champ.
Now I know.
You can't spill the secrets till after, buddy.
He came over and says, "Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one you got tied on there, John."
I was like, yeah, good, yeah.
You can still now. Don't get me wrong. You can still catch fish on a regular chatterbait.
Yeah.
All day. There is a difference, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, let's get ready to wrap things up. Hey, Chris, you got any final thoughts, Big Daddy?
Yeah. Pro tip: if you ever make it down to the coast and you're going to fish for redfish, that Thunder Cricket does crazy things to redfish. Oh, yeah. They absolutely hate it. So throw it at them because they're gonna eat it.
Stormy?
Oh man, it's just been an awesome year. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
No,
it's really
man. It's been a pleasure watching you just tear up West Virginia like you own it, So, and you did. So, Cory, hey buddy, I really appreciate you taking the evening to jump on here. And now you see how we run things. We do little segments, bring people on, talk about different little subjects, each person. Then we come up here together at the end and do the fireside chat. I hope you enjoyed this, and definitely hope we can get you to come back.
Yeah, definitely get me back on here, man. I enjoyed it. I really appreciate it, and good to see all you guys. And I guess I'll see you down. Storms, you're going to Nationals, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'll get with you and Jody one day. Me and Phil, I told Jody we'd at least meet for dinner one day at the absolute least. We'll get with y'all.
All right, perfect. So great to see you guys, and I really appreciate it, John.
Thank you, man. And,
see you.
Look for my order real soon.
Sounds good.
So, hey, guys, that was episode 16 of the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast Show. Please take time to go watch the show. Go listen to what Jody and Cory had to talk about. Check out what Stormy was doing this year. He's had a heck of a year and heck of a show. Always love having Jody Queen on. Next time we get him on, maybe we can get him to bring his guitar on him and sing us a song. But appreciate all the guys, Randy Newton, jumping on. Mark Edwards and Nola Davis jumped on. Nicholas Beltran helped out through some tags and stuff. Thank you guys for following along with the show. Tackle Fishing Adventures. Really appreciate it. We'll sign off now, and we'll see you next Tuesday.